Welcome to today's episode of the Group X podcast. I'm your host, Tony Zanato. Today, I'll be talking to Pete Peterson, trainer for Les Mills Body Pump and Grit, and presenter for Les Mills Body Pump, Grit, Sprint, and the Trip. We've all heard that knowledge is power, often to the point where it seems like a cliché. However, in this episode, Pete and I discuss how sharing knowledge can give you a competitive advantage and allows you to create a powerful dynamic when teaching. So grab your favourite beverage, sit back, and enjoy this episode. Pete, welcome to the Group X podcast, mate. It's good to see you.
Tony, I'm excited to be here.
Mate, I'm grateful to hear that. I really am. You and I haven't met face to face, or if we have, I don't recall. So I apologise if we have, straight up.
Well,
I think I've seen you in passing
across the room.
Yes, yeah, seen you in passing at events and that kind of stuff.
I remember trying to catch your eyes, and you looked the other way and just kept walking. So.
Yes.
I tend to leave that impression on people.
You know what it is? It's one bald person looking at another bald person that we sort of. It's the whole eye contact of. Yeah, it's like, oh, don't, that's shiny. Stop.
Yeah, it's like you're blinding me. The light's off your head.
Too funny, mate. Let's kick it off then. How did you get into the fitness industry, mate? Where does your journey start?
Ooh, where does my journey start? Right. So let's go. We'll go right back. I come from a very small country town out in the middle of nowhere in Queensland. And, sort of growing up through, the 80s, I guess, there wasn't much to do out in places like that other than to play sport.
Yep.
So, sport was my saving grace, because if I wasn't out playing sport, it meant I was fencing or cutting down trees. And, mate, I don't get my hands dirty.
Yep.
All right. I'll put it out there. I'm just one of those guys. I was never a fan of it. In fact, I despised it.
Yep.
My father, he was a coal miner for 40 years. So seeing him come home every day just covered in sort of black coal dust, I couldn't think of a worse occupation. So when I found there was a sport to play, I wouldn't even care what it was. Just let me play it.
Yep.
And then that, sort of just really stayed with me all the way through school and in every spare second I had. After that was, PE was my favorite subject at school. I was just one of those guys. If I wasn't doing something active at school, I would probably be sent outside the classroom, which happened a lot.
Yep.
A lot. Not in a bad way. I was a pest.
Yep.
I was a pest. I did my work. I did it well, but a classroom environment wasn't for me. Just get me outside. So I was just all things sport, PE related at school.
Yep.
Then my PE teacher at the time said, look, you're obviously, your life is consumed by sport. Maybe you should think about studying, human movement, exercise science. And I was like, yeah, cool. I didn't even know what it was going to get me on the other side, but I figured, cool, I can go to uni. I don't actually have to work with dad out on the property.
Yeah.
And I can just go learn stuff about, all things exercise now and sport. So went and did that. And then, look, I guess like for a lot of people who have come from that background, it's almost, you can see a natural transition there for a lot of people. And my first exposure to it, I'd moved around the country a lot. So look, grew up in Queensland. I did uni in New South Wales, as Rach would know.
Yep.
And then I found myself in Perth. And this is quite an interesting story. I say I don't have anything interesting to say, but this is quite interesting. This gym that I landed at when I was just looking for work was this little boutique gym out in the industrial area in the northern suburbs of Perth. And there was nothing extraordinary about it. The guy that owned and operated this gym, his name was Norm Phillips. Now, I didn't know at the time, but Norm Phillips was one of the early pioneers of bringing all the Les Mills programs, particularly BODYPUMP and STEP, I believe, to Australia.
Yep.
And he was one of the early trainers of a lot of our older instructors.
Yeah. Yep.
And, I used to see all this stuff happening in the group fitness room. I was happy. I used to, I guess, teach circuits just downstairs. It was like downstairs in a dungeon, mate, just with, the old school sort of racked weights and whatever else.
Yeah.
And I would teach sort of freestyles. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just making up shit, I swear. But we had fun downstairs. But I could always hear there was a lot more fun upstairs. And it used to, it would always catch my attention. And Norm was really cool, really easygoing guy. And then I participated in my first body pump class. And I always tell this story at modules. I like to think that I invented Smart Start because, and I think Marlon said something similar as well. I actually didn't finish the class. I got to biceps, mate, and I was done. I was one of those guys who came in off the gym floor with the disillusioned ego, the overinflated ego, thinking, I'm going to smash this out of the park.
Yeah.
I got nailed. I absolutely nailed. It was.
Yep.
It was the hardest thing I had ever felt. And
hey, you made it to biceps.
Around.
I'm proud of you. You made it to the bicep track.
Seriously, I probably could have pulled the pin after squats.
It's ego, man. You can't.
Well, that's it. You can't. And then I just sort of regressed for the next 20, 30 minutes after that. And I had to make a call for my own health.
Yep.
Thinking that I can't do this. But I was looking around and, all these other people in the class, they were having a great time. They were absolutely nailing it. It was like everyone was having a great time and doing that except me.
Yep.
And it wasn't then until actually walking away and, I sort of reflected on what just happened. And it was, I don't know, man, there's this thing in group fitness, like this feeling that I feel you can't replicate anywhere else.
Yep.
And that overwhelmed me. That all of a sudden I was like, I don't even know what that was, but I need that in my life.
Yep.
That is cool. But then, weirdly enough, and she wouldn't remember, but at that same little boutique gym in this industrial area is where Kylie Gates started to sort of first take her steps as well, outside of when she was teaching at Lord's.
Yep.
And often it was because of Norm, because Norm was he later went back to Auckland. I think he was a key part in setting up the personal training part of the business over there.
Yep.
And so, Kylie was sort of starting there too. I remember another guy who had the biggest quads I've ever seen, Jeff Richards, who was incredible at like body attack and basically everything. Like, there was nothing that Jeff couldn't do.
Yeah.
And just watching these people, I guess, like work their craft and seeing the experiences they were creating just for these workouts that I've never seen before. I was like, that stuff is so cool. And then it was just like, yeah, I need to be a part of this. How do I do this? So actually, I participated for about probably 2 years, 2-3 years until, and Norm, I remember Norm said to me earlier, he said, Pete, this is something you should consider. And I didn't have the confidence yet. I was happy just to participate and just absorb.
Yep.
And then probably about 2-3 years down the track. So that was in 2000, actually. 2000 was when I took the leap and I went back to, actually, I ended up in the Northern Territory.
Let me ask you a question then. Is there a state you haven't lived in?
Yes, for good reason. South Australia and Tasmania.
Okay. We won't go into that then.
we won't go into that. But then, look, after Perth, actually, because after my time in WA, I did my extra year to become a qualified school teacher. So I'd done the 3 years.
Yep.
And then I was thinking, you know what? I love working in a gym, but the pay is shit, and this is not going to. It's not going to. I guess, like, help my lifestyle. But I always had this passion for teaching anyway, because I idolized my PE teacher at school. It was probably, I guess, quite obvious at some stage I was going to go down that path.
Yep.
So I did my graduate diploma and ended up in the Territory. I was just looking for a job just to start. And then an opportunity came up to do an initial module for Body Pump, and I was like, yeah, cool. All right, now's the time.
What a
And
beginning.
my God, how much has a module changed,
Yeah.
mate? I tell
Hell
you,
yes. Yeah.
I
Yep.
just remember, I think one of the first things we had to do was like run 3 kilometers or something ridiculous out in the scrub, out in Alice Springs, or out in the hills.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, I just want to lift
Yeah.
weights and like teach to music. Why are we doing this? And you know, the challenges that, you know, are often spoken about at times through different programs,
Yeah.
like literally broke people.
Yeah. That was it. That was the way it was. It
Whew,
was, we're going to push you to your limit, knowing that if you can do this,
absolutely.
you're going to be able to
Yeah,
teach. Yeah, you'll be sweet. Yeah. No way. So that I've had
crazy.
a couple of conversations with some of the early guys like Pete Manuel, Sharon Susie, Wendy Elphinstone, and also Karen Russell. When the training module was a sheet of A4 paper, both sides. That was it. That's all it was. Right, we're going for a run. You know what? Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to go and yeah, here's this hill. Run up it, sprint up it, and
Oh,
then we're going to run back down. And
I
yeah,
tell you what, it was a shock. It was a shock to the system, but it certainly tested, I guess, your motivation. It's like, are you sure you want to actually continue to do this?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and look, most people would, but yeah, the modules have changed
yeah.
significantly.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me, with on that on module training that you did way back then, and as different as it was compared to what it is now, what did you think after your module training? Did you go, yeah, cool, I want to go and teach this, or did it scare you off from teaching?
Yeah,
Did it?
no, I was that. I guess like for my personality, probably more so at the time is, okay, cool. I want to be challenged.
Yep. Cool.
So if you want me to go and do challenge A, B, C, no worries, I'll go do it,
Yep.
because my mindset is already framed that I want to do this training.
Yes.
So if I have to, whatever I have to go and do, I'll go and do it. I'm happy to do that.
Yep.
I was younger then, so you know, you sort of have that sort of bulletproof armor on as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
Of
if that was
course.
to happen now, yeah, maybe not. It's like, are there options? Are there any other levels that we could do?
Yeah.
But certainly in that time, and what I was looking for, you know, it wasn't an issue. It wasn't an issue. I was excited. It's like, cool, this sounds awesome. Like, you want to run? Let's run.
Yep.
But deep inside, I was crying, and
Yep.
it wasn't something I really want to do. But I'll do it.
Yeah, we'll run. We'll go for it. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say then, you've obviously taught in quite a few places. Yeah. If your initial module training was up in Northern Territory and you're based now in Victoria, how were clubs back then in the Northern Territory, knowing that the programs have evolved so much? Have gyms evolved so much? How much have gyms evolved since back then?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I have a real soft spot for the regional areas, and you know, for people who may, or instructors who may have been predominantly city based or urban based, it's going out and teaching in some of these remote and regional areas. It really, it blows your mind at the community aspect. I feel is very different in those areas compared to, say, an inner city Melbourne or Sydney club. Like, yes, they can sort of still create their community sort of within the club, but it's just different in those places. And I had some of the best classes out in Alice Springs, in Darwin, and because the people, that's, you know, when we talk about sort of creating an escape, for a lot of them up there, that this is their thing. Like, it truly is.
Yep.
It truly is. And it becomes almost more of a social occasion with, you know, with a side serving of a workout.
Yep. Yes. So true. I remember the days of travelling around with Les Mills as account manager through the back of Western Australia, and some places I can't even remember the names of, but they hadn't seen a rep from Les Mills for 5, 6, 7 years. And I've walked in and there's a class on, and they're like, "You coming in?" And I was like, sure, okay, yeah, let's, yeah, I'm not dressed for that at all, but why not? You know what? Yeah, let's go for it. And the community feel and that sense of culture that they build in regional places far exceeds anything I've ever seen or come across in urban or in the city areas.
You know, I wholeheartedly just, I don't know what it is. It is just something that occurs out in those areas, and it really brings, you can truly see the sense of enjoyment that those classes,
Yep.
what it means to
those people.
people.
Yeah.
Because they have different challenges, you know, and obviously everyone has challenges, but for a lot of regional areas, their challenges are very different to,
Yes.
say, some of the urban areas.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. I love, again, I have a soft spot for the regional areas, but I'm from the country anyway. So.
Yes. This is the Group X podcast. So what was your next program after Pump? What did you go and do after Pump? Or should I say, where was your next town, or where did you live after the Northern Territory?
Okay, actually, no, my second program wasn't, you know, it's funny that when you sort of get hooked in and then it's like, cool, I'm going to do every possible program I can. Yes. I've got that rush, might as well keep the momentum moving forward.
Yep.
And, you know, I was in Alice Springs at the time, and you wouldn't believe the second program that was, I guess, became it as an opportunity to teach. And it was actually Body Jam.
No way.
I kid you not. Actually, you know how many people don't believe me? And I encourage them to ring up the team at Canberra, at head office, and ask them, and you will see that I am trained and certified in Body Jam.
In Jam. I'll say to you straight up, well done, because anyone that can dance, I look up to and go, yeah, well done. Cool. You've got that.
Let's be clear, I can't dance.
But you're trained and certified. Well done.
Yeah, I don't know how, but I tell you, that was the most physical training that I've experieed.
So you still teaching?
No. After it hurt. It not only hurt to breathe, it just hurt, like, even just to laugh. Like, my ribs were just literally dying from the inside out. Just learning how to use your body in a very different way, as opposed to 3 o'clock in a nightclub.
Yeah. That's not dancing.
No, that's not dancing. Well, I thought it was at the time, but clearly I was mistaken. And yeah, so that was my second program, which shocks a lot of people.
Yeah.
But then I had some injuries and stuff later on, and it was one of those ones that sort of had to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, I was about to say, we'll stay with that. We'll roll with that. Yeah, I can edit that bit out later if you want. Yeah.
Please don't.
Brilliant. So Body Pump, then Body Jam. What was next?
You know what? I actually can't remember. It was a bit of a blur after that. I'm pretty certain it would have been Body Attack or RPM.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think those two were pretty close together in either case. And then Core, Sprint, Grit. What else is there? The Trip.
Yep.
And I've gone back to being a student, and I'm loving it. I've only recently done my tone initial module training.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you throw in Body Vibe in there anyway? But you've just said tone, which is the old Vive.
Yeah, so I taught tracks 1 to 6 tonight.
Brilliant.
And it's been so cool to actually go back to, I guess, like being a student again and learning a new program.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been great.
Cool. Whereabouts is that? Whereabouts are you teaching that at the moment?
At the moment, I'm just gate crashing classes where I can get the opportunity to practice where they'll let me. The members are horrified because some of them have only seen me at Pump, and it's like, what? Why is he here?
Yeah, dude, wrong class, wrong time, wrong day.
Yeah, Pump was yesterday. It's not now. And it's like, I'm doing tone. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, come on, people, give me something.
Yeah. Give the guy a break. He's trying, okay? Yeah. He's trying. With all of the programs you've done, what is your favourite?
Oh, that's a good question.
See, and I know we're not meant to have a favourite. It's like having a favourite child.
Yeah, but let's be honest, everyone does.
Yeah. Favourite child or favourite program?
Both. No one will ever admit it though, but I think deep down though, there is one. Yep. For me, it varies with times, but if I was to say overall, Body Pump, I think, because it was, and you always remember your first.
Yeah. Yep.
and it was awkward experience.
Yep.
And it's the one that's probably closest to me, I guess. So, that's been 22 years now.
Jesus.
And, I can honestly say that, I'm still as passionate, if not even more, like teaching it now as I was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Like there's, people, they just roll their eyes at me when they say, oh, well, what do you think of this release? Or what do you think of this song? And I'm like, I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
Yep.
As I don't know, I love everything about it.
Yep.
There's nothing there that, that is going to make me say, or make me have me fall out of love with Body Pump.
Yeah.
But if I was to say right now, if you'd ask me that question, what is your favorite program right now? I'd have to say The Trip.
Okay. And why is that?
I love it.
What is it about The Trip that
Yeah, look, obviously the visuals serve as a nice distraction and add a very unique element to our coaching that all our other programs don't have.
Yes.
And what I love about it the most is actually riding with the people.
Yep.
That, to me, that changes so much.
Changes the dynamic
in the way that, it changes the dynamic huge. It's, a lot of the times we're out front and we're trying to bring everyone in closer to create that sort of, that real inclusive feel. But with The Trip, you're actually with them straight up and you're with them for the whole journey. That part is cool.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. I think the dynamics of The Trip have changed our little industry, our Group X space, quite a fair bit. And as you said, that inclusivity of getting people in instead of trying to do it from the front when you're trying to get them to come, come on, let's all get in together. When you're in front of them facing the same way as them and you can actually lead the pack or have them by your side right with you when you're doing it at the same time, they're seeing exactly where you're going. I think it does change that dynamic big time.
It's so cool, but I get concerned sometimes when people say, oh, I'm not going to sit next to you because it's too scary. And I'm like, what?
But we're just going for a ride. Come on.
Or Pete's just going to pick on me. And I was like, no, it's positive reinforcement. It's not picking on you.
It all is perception on how it's taken.
Yes.
Oh, love it. So what release was it that Pump?
Early 30s.
Oh, wow.
Early 30s. That's as much as mate, it was 22 years ago.
Yeah, back when the music was...
As much as I love the program, I actually can't remember the release, but I know it was around there somewhere. Yeah,
the music back then was very, very, very different to what we're experiencing today. I mean, music taste across the board has changed and evolved so much. I mean, I remember some of the early Pump, there was Phantom of the Opera was in there, and
I always remember like Tom Jones for Biceps.
Yes,
was like almost like a staple.
Yeah, I mean, I joined the industry in 2003, and at the gym I was at, we had a lot of Les Mills presenters, so the quality was quite high, and it was amazing because we always got the new stuff before anybody else at our gym because they had somewhere to teach it and practice it and all that kind of stuff, and the new stuff when it had come out was amazing, and some of that early stuff of music that is probably 80s and 90s that was just being used in fitness to sort of get everybody in. Then as we rolled into the 2000s, we started to get some of the more modern stuff that was happening as well. And I think so much of that music is still relevant today, even though we shouldn't be going back past 10 releases. What we're teaching...
let's be honest, everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Look, the chat that I just had recently with Nathan White, we discussed... doing a worst of. So everyone does the best of. Everyone chooses the best tracks of everything. And I've said to him, mate, you know what? No, I would, every so often I would go and do a worst of because it'd get me out of the comfort zone of teaching the same tracks over and over again. But it'd also make you teach differently because even though it was a track that you might not have gelled with personally, there's people in your class that would have gone, yeah. And so I recommend everybody should try and do a worst of every now.
I actually think that's a great idea because it, you often challenge people. There is something in every song, regardless of your personal taste, that you can bring it to life. It could be just one word, or it could be a lyric, it could be a beat, but there'll be something there'll be something. It doesn't matter how much you may not like the song, but
Yeah.
there'll be something there.
Yeah.
Can you actually find it? I like that
Yeah.
idea. I
It
reckon
was
I might do this.
back when we were able to upload all of our music into iTunes, and you'd be able to see the play count on the side, and you'd have your favorite like 20 or 30 that were
it's quite obvious,
up to
it?
100 and something tracks times you'd played it and all that kind of stuff. I would go through every so often and go, oh, that's only been played once. Oh, that was none. Righto. And just create a playlist from it. Sometimes it'd be hit and miss, because sometimes the music just wouldn't flow on. People would be like, dude, that was really shit. Hey, it was good.
But that's cool.
But at the same time, as I say to Nathan, if you do a shit class, the next time you go in and you do an amazing class, they love you even more. Even if the next class isn't as amazing, they still love you even more, because the last class you did, their last memory was, Tony, that was shit.
It's like, get a load of this thing.
Yeah,
this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, this is going to blow you away. But no, I recommend everyone should go back and do some old releases every now and then, and choose the tracks that you either didn't like for some reason. The choreo was hard, because it made me go and relearn choreo that was out of my brain for some reason. You do the same tracks over and over again. You remember it. You might have a glance over, or sometimes you can just put a track on and go, yeah, I know this. Why go into autopilot? Test yourself. Throw yourself into the deep end every so often and go, right, I'm going to do a track that I haven't done in forever. Let's give it a shot. Some of the tracks that I learned.
I'll be honest, it's something that I don't do as much either. When I go back to the older ones, I guess I go back to ones that I know I can just quickly listen to it. Yeah. The choreo's there. Okay, cool. I don't have to spend too much time in sort of doing any more preparation for that. But I reckon I'll take that on advisement. I reckon I'll give it a crack.
Just don't call it the worst of, though.
No, I'll come up with a better name.
Yeah. See how you go with it. But try it. See how you go. Let us know. This is the Group X podcast. So how did the opportunity come up for you to become part of the trainer and presenter team?
Yeah, so mine's quite an interesting journey. It was a 16-year, well, really, probably close to probably a 16-year process for me. I remember doing the very early, I think I was in the second one when AIM 2 was first launched.
Yeah.
I was still in the territory then, and I remember traveling to Brisbane. I did that one, and it was quite. And I can't remember who said it, but I know someone else said it, that in some of the early ones, there's like four or five trainers and presenters, and sometimes there was more trainers and presenters than there were participants.
Yeah.
And it was like, gee, what am I stepping into here? But it was the early rollout of that, I guess.
Yes. And
that was in Brisbane. I think it was way back in maybe 2008, maybe a touch earlier. And then, look, basically for me, it was, I found myself as an assessor first.
Yep. And
my background, I guess, sort of lent itself to, like having some sort of skill set in that space. I'd sort of been as a school teacher for a while. I've been sort of teaching sort of vocational ed type stuff as well, like through Cert 3 and Cert 4. And then this opportunity came up and I was still in the territory. They didn't have an issue with that being remote because, back in those days, it was quite, and probably still now to a degree, it was a very sort of centralized model in terms of the structure of that team. But they said, look, Pete, would you be, there was an assessor role to which I applied and went through the process, and I was offered that opportunity.
Yep.
And then just spent countless hours of my life watching BODYPUMP filming submissions.
Can you give us a little bit around what that role is then, as the assessor role, so that those that might not completely get it understand? If you can give us a little bit about the assessor role.
So I guess when it came to the certification phase back in those days, there was a lot of video submissions, and with the instructor or the trainee's certification form, I was one of the people that would watch your submission and provide you all the feedback around, the key elements, and then basically give you the outcome in terms of, pass or certified to teach.
Yep.
Or go away and maybe this journey may take a little bit longer for you. So
Yep.
that reset word.
Such a nice way of putting
it.
You pass, you're excellent, or no, you're shit, go and do it again.
Pretty much, but
yeah,
we'll
in a nicer
nicely,
way. Yeah.
So, in a nicer way. You need a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And that was basically that role. And that was very time intensive. Like I can tell you that from people who haven't sort of experienced doing, and it could be in any other sort of role, I guess like a task like that, you don't do it for the money. That's pretty clear because it takes a significant amount of time that you not only have to watch the entire class, then you have to go away and sort of start crafting your feedback and then actually typing it and put it into words. And that whole process, it can take a long time.
Yeah. It's not just an hour.
I love to do it. I love to do it. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. And it was something that I knew that would sort of help me, I guess, in the future. That if this space was something that I was interested in, to me, it was like, this is going to form part of my apprenticeship.
Yep.
Now, it didn't necessarily mean that being an assessor meant automatically, oh, okay, now here's an opportunity. Would you be willing to come on board?
Yeah.
I still had to go through the entire process like anyone else.
Yeah.
But by then, the whole process had changed anyway.
Yep.
I think that was in 2016.
Yep.
So even though I was still doing all my assessing work, and even then I was doing like body pump, sprint, and grit, I think predominantly, I still had to go through the formal audition process like anyone else.
Yep. How was the process for you then? How did that all come about? I know we sort of went off a bit topic there, but
daunting
to go through. Yeah. So talk us through your aim two though. You were saying before I got you off point there.
Yep.
That aim two, you walked into that space and there was a whole lot of trainer presenters in there, and there was only a couple of you instructors in there. That for one is daunting. Just even thinking about walking into that room where you're like, okay, what, what? Okay, yep, cool. I'm here. Yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, you're all here too. Good-o. Yep. How was it? How was AIM 2 as an experience for you?
Look, back then, I guess when the program was first finding its feet, I loved it. I'll be honest. I used it as an opportunity just to learn as much as I could and get as much feedback as I could that I could actually go away and apply, because I was one of those people. So you want to give me feedback? All right, cool. I'll take what I believe that is certainly valid for me, but then I'll actually go and apply it.
Yes.
And I will apply it in a way that works for me.
Yep.
So I was fortunate enough that sort of in that AIM 2 module was Karen Russell, Jacko, and Paul Pierce.
Yes.
And all three had been very influential in those early stages of my teaching career.
Yep.
Like when I was in the Territory, we used to go down to Adelaide a bit, for wine and food, and making a connection with Paul, and then going out to his little gym, which was sort of just outside Adelaide, and then, just asking, look, can I just jump on stage and take a few tracks, and can I get some feedback from you? And he was always open.
Awesome.
Karen was the same when I used to go to Brisbane, saying, look, can I just teach a track or two, give me feedback? And I loved how Karen used to give me feedback, because there was no fluff. Just tell me how it is.
Yep.
What do I need to do
to
go away and work on to make my craft better?
Yeah.
And Kaz was always very upfront with that, and I love that. But that's, even when I would go away on holidays, that's what I would go and do, is to seek those opportunities, and just so that I could continue just trying my best to not only get better for myself, but then to create those better experiences for my members.
I like hearing that. That's a very noble is maybe the word that I want to use, but I think it's what more instructors should do. Yeah. If you want feedback, go and hunt it out. Go and source it. Go and see where you can go and shadow. You can go and teach. You can, cool. I want to teach a couple of tracks with you. Give me some feedback. But make sure that when you get the feedback, as I chatted to Inga about just recently as well, when you get the feedback, take on board what's good for you and what you don't need to take on. Just, as used to be said, it's like Christmas presents. Yeah. Some of them you can just sort of, okay, thanks. Put it over to the side, Yeah. You take what's working for you and what you need out of it. Yeah,
and to actually do something with it.
Yes.
Like, do something with it. Don't just have that conversation and agree, or then you may disagree with the feedback or whatever, and then just leave it. Like, actually go and, start to implement some of that stuff, even if it doesn't work.
Yep.
Even if it doesn't work, but then
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you may think, you know what, maybe that isn't right for me, but I'm going to try this instead.
Yeah.
I challenge people to actually do something with the feedback, but consistently as well.
Yeah.
And then reflect on that and say, is this working?
Yep.
Is this working? I honestly think I don't think enough people do that.
Yeah. With your when you did AIM 2, you finished AIM 2. Can you remember the first class you taught after AIM 2?
Oh, no, I can't. But I can remember as they were trying to give a boost to the profile of AIM 2, I guess, back when it was more outcome based.
Yes.
I was still in the territory and I was coming to Brisbane. I just happened to be around the release of BODYPUMP 80 back in the Super Workshop days, which was so cool.
Yep.
So cool. It was in one of the big stadiums, and I just got to, they got in contact with me. Kaz got in contact with me, I think, and said, you just want to jump up on stage and just shadow.
Excellent.
And I guess like as a driver for the AIM 2 program, because that, I think that was I was in the second module. So then it was to give, I guess, other instructors as well, if that was something they were looking at, saying, look, this is a potential, not a pathway, but this is something that, could become an opportunity for you down the track.
Yep.
And so I remember that was quite early on. And that was I remember Glenn was here, Kylie, Jacko, Jerome, and another guy called Brendan Sievers, I think, who used to be on the team back in the day.
Brilliant.
How
was that experience?
Oh, I had no idea what I was doing, mate. It was just classic imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And I still struggle with that these days. Just being surrounded by some of these incredibly talented people, and they're so good at what they do. And then sometimes I look around and go, I don't even know why I'm here. I really don't. I'll do it, but
you know what?
I don't think I should be here.
I really enjoy hearing that, and I know this is probably going to sound weird to a lot of people that are listening, but it shows the real side of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like the majority of people that I've had on the show. No one is a show pony that is, look at me, look at me, look at me. Yeah. They don't exist. They did. I'll be honest and say they did. Back in the early 2000s when I first started, there were a ton of show ponies, and the show ponies that I'm referring to were also the ones that did module training that passed everybody, even when they shouldn't have been passed, because they needed to be, well, I've got to be loved by everybody. I've got to, that has been weeded out. And I say that from working at head office back then as well. That went through a big turnover, and those trainers, presenters of the time are no longer with us because they just didn't last, and they wouldn't even last these days. They wouldn't even get a show in these days.
Oh, look, mate, it's, and I tell people this all the time, that I'm nervous just before I teach a club class.
Awesome.
And, and people often say, but it doesn't look it. Yep. But, I always give that duck analogy that, and, and again, I've been teaching for 22 years. I can mask a lot of stuff pretty well now.
Yep.
But it's the duck analogy that it may look all calm on top, but underneath those legs, they are going. And I still feel that with a club class, a Monday morning, 6 a.m. body pump. So, even those people say, oh, Pete, you always seem sort of quite calm and measured. I'm shitting myself, mate. And then when it gets into those bigger the bigger workouts, I guess, even at workshops, having I have this fear of when I see a lot of instructors that I've trained, literally shitting myself, thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to be so judged through this. What am I doing?
Yeah, the thing is, though, you deep down, you probably know you're not, or if you don't know it, you're not being judged. People are there because they've connected with you. You've helped them on their journey through it. They look up to you, whether we say they idolize you or not. They respect you for what journey you're on and what journey you've helped them on in that way. Yeah. I love the fact that you're nervous before you teach, mate. I really do. I'm with a lot of stuff that I do in my day job now with Body Bike and even recording these. You know, for 10 minutes before I sit down to record these, I sit here and blast a whole lot of music to get myself into that whole shit. Yeah, okay, where the hell's this going to go? There's still that nerves, but I think it's because I love what I do. And I say to most trainers and presenters, if you get nervous, it shows that you've got passion, shows you've got drive for what you're doing. And I think the day you stop being nervous is the day you sort of need to self-reflect and go, wow, am I really doing this for the right reasons?
Absolutely. Like, you learn how to channel it you learn how to channel it the right way. That's going to work for you. Yep. You know, and again, if I hadn't figured that out after 22 years, I probably shouldn't still be doing it. So I certainly still get nervous every time I teach, but I can turn that into something positive for myself. I just need to get in the right headspace. And once I'm there, then it's like, okay, we're good to go now.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember who I was chatting to recently, but it was very prevalent in what we were talking, that when you guys are in a presenter mode, it's 4 times a year.
Yeah.
You need to be on fire. Don't get me wrong. You need to be pumping. You need to be completely 100% on point for what you're doing. But more so, as you're saying, that Monday morning 6 a.m. class, they see you every week.
That's the bread and butter.
Yeah, they're the ones that are counting on you more than the others that only see you 4 times a year. You could screw up that 4 times a year, once a year, and they'd be like, "Oh, that was a bit off," but yeah, okay, cool, we get it. Yeah, there's more riding on your everyday class than there is 4 times a year or whatever it may be if you're training people as well.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely. And it's not so much. I guess people may have a false expectation of a different standard, because really you should be trying to apply the same standard to every class you teach. So I look at it from that sense, but I guess that fear of, I guess I'm always judged by my members, but they'll just tell me because they have a good relationship with me now. But there's nothing more terrifying than walking into a room of 40 odd instructors. Just, and I have this thing going around in my head, even before I start actually speaking, thinking, I've got to make sure I get the track focus right. Shit, how does this track go again? What comes after that rep? That is literally what is going through my head. Even though I'm so diligent with my prep.
Yeah. But
it's that in that split second, when I look out and I just see a sea of instructors. Yeah. I'm like, what am I even doing here? I feel like there's this target on me. I'm dead man walking.
Mate, I laugh with you there, not at you, because I know and I can sense. Yeah, you can sometimes see it, and Les Mills Live for me down in Melbourne was one of those. Not having seen a live event and not having been part of a live event for a few years there, it was great for us to be sitting back there and looking up on stage and feeling the energy, from you guys up on stage, but also from the room as well, from those instructors that were like, yeah, we live for this. This is what we want. But also you'd have a bit of a look and hone in on each one of the trainers, presenters' faces. And you could just tell for that split second, there's that, oh, shit. Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good. And it's looking at your peers as well to get the whole, we got this. You know what? We're good. Let's go. Let's press play.
It is. Did you happen to see when I started the squat track?
No, we'd left early on the Sunday.
Why not? You should have been there.
Mate, we had to get bikes back to Sydney. My apologies. There was no time. There was a 12.5-hour drive back with 75 body bikes to get back to Sydney. How did it go?
I only asked that because what happened was exactly what you just said. It was a late call up to do the squat track. That was cool. And had it all squared away. And they started the track, it was about 20 to 30 seconds in. And I'm literally standing there like a deer in headlights because for that, what felt like an absolute lifetime, and there was 300 odd people on the floor, I had no idea where we were in the music. What I did know, it wasn't the start of the track. That's what I did know. And it took me a couple of seconds, and then I remember sort of looking around and saying some really awkward stuff on stage. And then I thought, shit, I've just got to go. I guess I could have said, can you please start that again? But I'm one that's let's just roll with it and see where we end up.
Yep.
I just had to sort of calm myself a bit because my anxiety literally went through the roof. And again, I had no idea we were in the track. I knew we were near the start, but just know what rep we were at.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, let's just start now.
Let's just do it.
And see where we go.
But you obviously got back on track, yeah?
Well, I don't know. I felt like I was chasing my tail the whole track because I couldn't. I guess I didn't feel like I got the start that I wanted and that I had. That I had sort of prepped for, and so that threw me. But I guess as instructors, it's that skill set of how adaptable can you be when things don't go to plan, because we know that shit happens all the time.
Yeah.
It could be at your club class.
Yes.
Sound system doesn't work. Oh, you got no mic.
Yep.
Things like that. So I let that sort of consume me a bit as I tried to sort of pull it back. But it was just one of those moments. I literally just standing there thinking, I got no idea what I'm supposed to be doing at the moment.
Mate, I thank you for sharing that, because there's probably some people out there that didn't get to listen to us live that will understand it. But I think it shows the realness of what we do, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
It is going to happen. And, I guess, some of the advice that I give to sort of new instructors, but even experienced instructors is, I look, I may get in trouble for saying this, I'm anti-scripting.
Yep.
I think there's a greater skill in coaching as opposed to scripting. Scripting has a place where it can be quite prescriptive as a person's trying to learn the fundamentals, the basics.
Yes.
And certainly has its place.
Yep.
But I don't think so when you're starting to further develop that you should be boxing yourself in so tight.
Yep.
That, and I'll give this example of how can you truly respond to what's happening in front of you if you've already prepped exactly what you're going to say at that very point in time.
I totally...
Like how genuine, how authentic.
Yeah.
And I don't like to use that word too much, but
thank you.
How real. Yeah, good. How real is that?
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I think that's a very good point to bring up, because scripting, when you're learning, when you first go through module training and you're first learning how to teach a program, while you've got your training wheels on, I think there's a time and place for it, and that is it. If you've been teaching for 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it may be, even more than, let's just say more than 2 or 3 years, do you need to script every single release? Do you need to script every single track? I say no, and I agree with you. What you're saying is that you be in the moment. I don't like the authentic word, but here it is again. Be in the moment, be real, be right there with it, and get the real emotion that's happening.
Yeah, be present.
Be right there in the moment. You know how they're feeling. You know how you're feeling. Use the words that come to you. Yeah, I think that's more as an instructor who's in the moment and is relevant, rather than someone that, cool, you know what, I could sit down and as an example, let's use an RPM release 50, whatever, the third track. I've sat down and I learnt it because I had to present it at launch, and I went through and I scripted the whole thing. If I've scripted it, I'm probably going to say the same thing time and time and time and time again. Yeah. If I don't script, it's how I'm feeling in the room. I've connected with the participants in front of me, and that is the realness of what we're doing. That this week when I taught that track 5 compared to last week when I taught track 5, different verbs, different words, whatever came out at that point.
It's a lot more natural. It's more organic. It happens in the moment.
Yes.
You're truly...
You're connecting better.
You find a place... Yeah, you're connecting better, and you're responding to what's actually happening around you.
Yeah.
That That's the cool stuff.
Yeah. If your members hear you say the same thing in that track every time you do that track at that point, really? Come on.
Yeah.
That's not a, that to me is not a, that's not a, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a real instructor, but it's not a genuine instructor that really cares about who's in front of them and is teaching for.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to make it so much better than that if you really want to.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, that's where I said earlier that group fitness has this thing that this atmosphere, this experience that you just can't replicate. It could be empowering, liberating, challenging, fun.
Yep.
But if you're going to get up there and just say the same shit every single time because you've scripted it that tight, you're going to be challenged to find any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I've had to take it back to my teach the worst of class. It gets you out. Yeah. It gets you out of that comfort zone. It gets you, I haven't taught that. I don't know what I'm going to say. Cool. I know the Corey. Let's blurt something out. You could be saying some of your absolute best lines in the worst of class.
Actually, it's funny. And this is a real life example is say like with the trip, because we have to obviously preload and, you know, we're heavily relying on technology working so that it actually comes to life and it works.
Yep.
Sometimes that doesn't happen. And, you know, in the past, the release that I wanted to do that I had planned for whatever reason, it wasn't going to happen that day.
Yep.
And then I just had to suddenly pull out another one that I had done no preparation for.
Yep.
But I tell you what, how that whole experience was so different. It was, I always feel in those moments, suddenly we're just having like more fun. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
I actually think it's better that I don't plan or prepare and just wing it and see how we go.
Yep.
And it was such a different feel. It was such a different feel as if, as compared to what I probably had sort of, you know, done all my preparation and planning for. All of a sudden being put under the pump thinking, shit, all right, we're just going to do this one.
Yeah.
I actually can't remember it, but
let's just roll with it. Yeah.
Let's see how we go. Rock and roll, strap yourself in.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. We had so much fun.
Yeah. No, I think some of those, you say those, they're real moments that we share with members and they appreciate that rawness of what we're being able to deliver because we're on the spot just like them. You know what, guys, I thought of this is what we're going to be doing, but you know what? Nah, come on, just come with me. It's going to be safe and effective. Let's just have some fun. Yeah. Let's get in there and yeah.
Absolutely. I love those moments.
Mate, what's your most favorite thing about teaching?
Oh, favorite thing about teaching, the energy that it can bring. It's, you know, I go back to that feeling of creating Smart Start and getting to sort of biceps and literally thinking I was going to die. But the energy that I felt sort of through that 30 minutes was just nothing I'd never experienced before.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I always had a strength of mine is my sense of the music. You know, I find it quite obvious in a track where, you know, here's a verse, here's a chorus, here's a bridge. I actually know nothing about the technical part of music, but I can hear it.
Yes.
And I can hear it well.
Yep.
So for me, all of a sudden combining some, you know, some great music and this workout, the energy that would create together, and then just having the instructor sort of lead you through the workout was just, that is it. That is it. So for me, it's trying to create that feeling because I just want to be able to share that with just as many people, as many people as I want, as many people as possible, because that stuff is cool.
This is the Group X podcast. Now you're a trainer and presenter in which programs?
Body pump. Sorry. Trainer in body pump and grit.
Yep.
And presenter, body pump, grit, sprint, and the trip.
Okay. So let's have a quick chat about the trainer side of things for grit and pump. Two quite different programs, obviously. What is it about being a trainer that ticks your boxes?
I love teaching people.
Yep.
It's, I go back to when I started out as just a high school teacher. I've always had a passion, I guess, being able to share knowledge and experiences, but then I guess have people sort of pick that up and then start to apply that and learn new skills as well. And I make this very clear in the advanced training modules that I teach, that my number one value, particularly in group fitness, is knowledge.
Yep.
Like what you'll hear in a lot of my classes, and some people who teach with me regularly will just sort of roll their eyes. Like I team teach with my girlfriend, and every time that I say, here's a fun fact, I might have some time. I say, here's a fun fact, and she just literally just stands there and the eyes just roll back into the head, because I love just the educational part that you have. Yep. So, whether even teaching a class or in a trainer capacity, that sharing of knowledge,
share that knowledge,
and having people learn new skills, and then go away and learn even more stuff about themselves, and then you learn off them.
Yeah.
As well, when you start sharing more stuff, that's what ticks the box for me.
Yeah. Knowledge
is power.
I like that. I really do like that. That gels. I think that gels with a lot of people as well. Being able to connect with you in that way when they're in your module training, that they can see that and sense that. I think that's, thanks. Is there anything that you feel in the industry at the moment that could do with changing, and in regards to group exercise specifically?
Actually, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that.
No, all good, mate.
That one out.
That's completely fine. It's a question that I've been asking people more and more lately, and I'll give you a little bit on why I asked that question. To me, group exercise isn't given the attention that it deserves in our industry. Yeah, being involved since 2003, heavily involved in group exercise and PT up until 2012 when I went to work for Les Mills, and then a good 5 years as account management, running around the country and talking to clubs. The amount of times where I'd go to present at a Filex, a fitness convention, something like that, with the Les Mills hat on, and you'd sit there and you'd be second or third on the agenda to have a chat about group exercise. You'd see people flock in for PT, have a chat about PT, be all focusing, flock in for, how to onboard your members or how to get new sales, focus on your sales consultants. And then you'd get up to talk about group exercise and you'd be left with maybe 40 people in the room. It shitted me to tears, because the so-called leaders in our industry don't understand the full power that group exercise has. They don't see it as still anything more than just a cost center. And yes, it's a cost center because there's wages involved with it. But let's be realistic when we're looking at group exercise and look at how many people are in front of us. You might see the same people 2 or 3 times a week. So throw those figures out there. Let's say we're getting 1,200 to attendance a week. Divide it by 3, which is what Les Mills is saying or Ursa are saying. So we're roughly getting around 400 people into group exercise a week. There's around that 400 mark that are probably not going anywhere else in the gym. They're just going into group exercise. Let's say it's $20 a week that they're paying in their membership. That is a big amount of money coming into a club, but clubs still don't see it as anything else apart from a cost center, because we've got to pay wages. Oh, well, it's over there, whatever. Let's not put any attention into it. Now, my big thing, and part of why I started this whole Group X thing, was to get people speaking about it more often, but to try and get clubs to understand the power that it really has in that space. If group exercise, as you would know, is pumping and everything is firing correctly on all cylinders, group exercise is your biggest retention tool, but also is your biggest sales tool at the same time, because those people are coming to your class. If they love it, they are going to tell their friends, because people prefer to work out in a group, as we know. People also come with me. You've got to come and do this class. Pete's awesome. I want you in here. Come and do this class with me. Yeah, the more that can happen, the better a club's attendance is going to be, the better a club retention rate is going to be. You look at most of the clubs around the country that have group exercise pumping, they're not having to worry about fill the bucket with new members because they've got all the holes in the bucket already patched up. So group exercise is pumping and it's doing its thing. The big thing for me that needs to change in the industry is the attention that's given to group exercise. More people, I believe, more club owners and club managers need to understand it. But not only that, I think it comes back to a group exercise manager.
Oh, absolutely. It's about, getting the right people in the right roles.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, something that I've seen in the past where you have a group fitness manager who actually isn't even an instructor. So for me, straight up, and this could be somewhat of a generalization, but I see that as fundamentally flawed.
Yep.
That how can you go and truly promote this product if you don't actually do it yourself?
Yes. Yep.
And that may not always be the case, but I've seen that before. And, then I think in terms of how you promote that space has not been as strong as to someone who actually is an instructor and gets it.
Look, I'll reference myself when I talk about this. Back when I became a Group X manager in 2008, I was just an instructor and a PT. And I was only teaching RPM back at that stage. Now, the cycle studio at the gym that I was at went from strength to strength because that was my passion. So everybody that I put in that room were top-notch instructors because that was my baby and that was, guys, let's make this happen. Almost every class in there had between 90 and 100% attendance. And I talk it up because I'm bloody proud of it. It was what it was back then. Now, we had 3 studios in that gym. There was a mind-body studio over in the corner that did yoga, Pilates, and I don't even think we did body balance in there. I think body balance was done in the main room where all the other group fitness programs were going. Now, back then, I was younger than what I am now. Young and younger, but didn't have the knowledge that I have obviously now with regards to Group X management. I had 2 main girls that were teaching in the yoga Pilates space, and they ran the timetable for me. They were brilliant. They were in the essence. They did it, and it was pumping. So I didn't have to worry about what was going on in that space. It just did its thing. And, it was probably sitting at, I'd say, close to 100% attendance because those girls were magnificent at what they did.
Yeah.
The main studio was up and down. I still had a lot of the trainers and presenters for Les Mills working for us in that club at that stage. But a lot of them had moved back into the city because they'd gotten Group X management roles in certain fitness first clubs throughout the city. But we still had a decent attendance going on. But the big thing for me was my focus was just on that one studio. So as a Group X manager, I was a Group X instructor, but I also didn't have the right skill set to manage the team properly.
Yeah.
Should I have been in the role? Probably not. But yes, I could find covers. I could do the bare minimum, the basics. I call what the 10%er of the role is. Find the covers, update the timetable, write the numbers down in a spreadsheet at the end of the week and generally make sure everything is clean and tidy. I didn't have the skill set to be able to assess instructors. I didn't have the skill set to be able to run promotions properly or look after social media properly. There was a whole lot of budgeting side of things which I had no idea about.
And there's a lot of other competing products within the same gym as well.
Yes.
I don't know what it's like these days, but I can certainly remember back in the day when I was probably more heavily involved in working on the floor was this great divide between PTs and group fitness instructors.
100%.
Significant.
Yep.
And I could never understand, because I've been both, and I could never understand why are we battling against each other where we are essentially on the same, it's a win-win. But again, I don't know how much that has evolved or if it hasn't, but certainly back when I was in the gym, it wasn't a nice place to be. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
The big thing that I would say to the personal trainers, because I was a PT back then as well, all of my clients I picked up from my classes. If you want PT clients, teach group exercise. How many people can be in front of you? Up to 40 or 50 people, depending on what class you're in and where you're located. But you have enough people in front of you that if you're connecting with them and doing really well, they are going to come up to you and say, hey, Tone, do you do PT? By the way, yes, I do. Here's my card. Let's have a chat.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the biggest I could say the biggest shopping place I had for PT clients.
Yeah.
It worked.
It was, but it is still a relationship though that can work both ways.
Yes. Well,
but look, that's certainly something that I experienced back many years ago. I'm not sure what that's like now, and obviously that's going to be quite different in different places. But it was a shame. It was a real disservice to the gym itself. It's like you're just making itself harder. It's for no reason.
This is the Group X podcast. So, mate, what does the future hold for you? Where's the future taking you? What are your plans for? Oh,
I will teach until my body literally falls apart, which has been pretty close on a couple of occasions. But I've had full knee reconstruction in the past. The last time I had a scan done, they said, Pete, look, your knee is like bone on bone. Like there's not much life. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Hopefully by the time I need a replacement, you come up with some cool stuff and can replace it with something high tech. But that it is the one thing in my life that I cannot see myself not doing.
Yep.
Yeah. It makes up a significant portion of who I am.
Yeah.
So when I'm asked what does the future look like? It's like, I hope to still be teaching my Monday morning 6 a.m. body pump class.
Yeah.
To
cool.
be honest,
and I think that's perfect. You stop when you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have to literally pull me out of there, crying and screaming and kicking when that time comes, because I won't want to go.
Yeah, but you can't do pump in a wheelchair, mate. Sorry, we can't let you.
There are options.
Or the Zimmer frame.
There are options. We create workouts for everybody.
Inclusivity. Okay, I get it now. I understand. Yep. No, I appreciate that. Look, I haven't been able to teach in the last couple of years since we moved from Canberra back to Wollongong, and hip replacement 1's been done. Hip replacement 2, fingers crossed, going to be done before Christmas. Not that I want to get back up on stage, but I want to be able to still do it in the garage at home. There's enough between Rach and I. There's enough releases there of the old stuff that there's thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of DVDs sitting there that I can easily just plug in and go, right, let's go, let's do it.
And it brings that rush. You get that rush that comes back.
Yeah. Just got to make sure I don't tread backwards on one of the dogs or a daughter. It was weird during COVID. Rach was in the garage doing attack, and Leah, our 5-year-old, was in there doing attack with her. It was awesome. Awesome to see.
Yeah,
Rach absolutely loved it, and Leah was in there giving it her best in a little crop top and little shorts as well, and it's like
it's part of that broader ripple effect, right?
Yes, mate. Genetics are in that one too. She's got such a beat that she just gets music so quickly. Just
Well, she's probably only been listening to Les Mills music for her entire life, so it's the only beat that she knows.
Yeah, Rach was teaching right up until
it will serve her well.
Yeah, Rach was teaching right up until just before she was in labour, and I'm sure that Leah knows every single attack and CX Works release by heart. Oh, I love it, mate. Last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yes.
What bit of advice can you give to instructors that might be listening who want to improve or look to improve what they're doing?
I guess we've spoken enough about feedback. I think probably certainly 2 points. One, be patient. Be patient and do the work. Like this whole concept of immediacy, if that's the right word. We progress at different speeds, so don't compare your journey to someone else's. Just be grateful for the journey that you're on yourself.
Yeah.
But with that, you need some patience, and you have to do the work. It's not going to be handed to you, whatever you're after. I remember this quote, there are no shortcuts to any place worth going.
Wow. I like say that again. There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts to any place worth going. So if you have a sense of what you truly value, there are no shortcuts to that. You have to do the work, and you have to be patient with that. So there's that part. And I think another part is, depending what your aspirations are for a lot of instructors, for example, if their aspiration was, okay, I want to be a presenter or I want to be a trainer, which is amazing. But I think at the same time, this goes for a lot of other things in life. And I say this to my children and don't listen to me. At some stages, be prepared to be told no.
Yeah.
But then understand what this looks like for you. What it looks like for you on the other side. It doesn't have to be the end of your story. There's plenty more time. And this goes down, I guess, with the patience. You can still keep writing your story, but you may be told no along the way, but you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So then what are you going to do? What is your response going to be on the other side? And when I think about my journey, I was told no multiple times, Tony. It was okay, cool. That's all right. I'll take that. I'll put my name out there, get told no, I'll take that away. What do I need to do to make my craft better? All right, I'll go and do this. And then again, it's just a matter of being patient, doing the work. And I guess this thing that we keep coming back to, don't give feedback on the feedback.
Yeah.
It's such a I guess like a term that really rings true, because you actually have to do something with it. And again, what we talk about, the validity of it, work on the feedback that works for you, but you actually have to try and apply it in the first instance. But in any case, look, that's my advice. Whatever your aspirations are, mate, be patient, do the work. There are no shortcuts to any place worth going.
Thank you, mate.
I
appreciate that, and I think
stuff that I do.
I think that'll land with a lot of people as well. They're simple words, but they're so meaningful and direct that there's no fluff in what you've just said. And I honestly, not saying because I'm sitting in front of you talking to you, it's genuinely. I mean, I'm saying because I'm sitting in front of you, we wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise. But you get what I'm saying, is that it's a genuine statement you just made that I believe people can really resonate with. So, mate, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing some time with me and sharing you and your story and everything there is about you. So, Pete, mate,
I'm a very uninteresting person, Tony, but it's been fun.
Mate, when you told me that when I asked you originally, I was like, anybody that tells me that they're uninteresting, I say bullshit straight away. There's a story in you that I can get out, and I know that people are going to gel with what we've had a chat about, mate. So seriously, thanks.
It's been good, mate. Thank you.